Ever seen someone so entitled they think they can physically assault a teenager over a spilled latte? That's what happened when Brenda decided my daughter was an easy target in a crowded cafe. She had no idea she'd just grabbed the ponytail of a two-time state judo champion. It was a typical Saturday morning at the daily grind. A cozy, upscale cafe buzzing with the hum of conversation and the hiss of espresso machines. I sat at a small table with my daughter, Olivia, savoring a rare moment of quiet together. I'm David, early 50s, retired from a desk job, and these coffee dates with Olivia are my favorite way to unwind. Olivia, 17, is polite, athletic, and unassuming in her casual hoodie and jeans. Her sports bag, tucked under her chair, had a judo GI peeking out, but you'd never guess she's a state champ just by looking at her. On our table sat my coffee cup, steaming gently, and a folded newspaper I hadn't gotten to yet. Olivia sipped her latte, scrolling on her phone, her sports bag resting quietly beneath her. The cafe was packed, the air thick with the scent of fresh pastries and the clatter of dishes. As Olivia stood to grab a napkin, she accidentally bumped into Brenda, a woman in her late 40s who radiated self-importance. Brenda was decked out in pristine white athleisure wear, juggling a designer handbag and a ridiculously complex coffee order while barking into her phone. Olivia's nudge caused a tiny splash of Brenda's latte to land on her sleeve. A speck really, barely noticeable. Brenda's head snapped up, her eyes blazing. "Watch where you're going, you clumsy brat," she shrieked, loud enough to turn heads. "This is designer. Do you know how much this costs?" Her phone call was forgotten, her handbag hitting the floor in her dramatic flailing. Her coffee teetered in her hand, threatening to spill more. Olivia, ever the peacemaker, flushed but stayed calm. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It was an accident. Can I pay for the cleaning or get you a new coffee?" Her voice was steady, sincere, but Brenda wasn't having it. Maybe she mistook Olivia's composure for attitude, or maybe she was just itching for a fight. "An apology isn't going to cut it," she snapped, stepping closer. "You spoiled little brats think you can do whatever you want." Her voice rose to a pitch that silenced nearby tables. Then, in a move that made my blood run cold, Brenda reached out, grabbed Olivia's ponytail, and yanked hard, jerking her head back. "You need to learn some respect." I was halfway out of my chair, heart pounding, protective instincts screaming. Seeing this woman lay hands on my daughter, my kid, over a speck of coffee, it was surreal. Olivia's trained, sure, but she's still my daughter. What would you have done in that instant? That gut punch feeling when someone attacks your child? How do you hold it together? Let me know in the comments. What's your first reaction? Before I could even process what was happening, Olivia's instincts took over. Years of judo training kicked in like a reflex. In one fluid motion, she twisted, using Brenda's own aggressive pole against her. With a textbook ogashi hip throw, Olivia sent Brenda sailing. The woman hit the cafe floor with a thud, her latte exploding in a frothy arc, her designer handbag skittering across the tiles. Olivia landed balanced, her eyes wide with surprise at her own reaction. But unharmed, the cafe froze, forks clattered, then whispers erupted. Brenda lay sprawled, her phone spinning beside her, latte pooling around her like a crime scene. Olivia stood poised, her sports bag still tucked under her chair, its judo GI now catching a few curious glances. Brenda's face was a mix of shock and outrage, her perfect athleisure now a sticky mess. The silence broke into murmurs, some patrons stifling laughs, others shaking their heads. I caught my breath, torn between pride and worry. Olivia had just turned the tables, literally and figuratively, on a bully who thought she could push around a teenager. But what came next? The whole room was watching. Brenda thought she was the victim of a teenage tantrum. She was about to learn she'd initiated a physical confrontation with a highly trained athlete who simply defended herself. And it was all on camera. The cafe was a circus of gasps and whispers as Brenda lay sprawled on the floor, her latte a sticky puddle, her designer handbag a few feet away. Olivia stood calm, her surprise fading into composure. her sports bag still tucked under our table. I rushed to her side, checking she was okay. She nodded, her eyes steady but wide, like she couldn't quite believe her reflexes had taken over so fast. The manager, a harried man in his 30s with a name tag reading Greg, pushed through the crowd, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Brenda, meanwhile, was milking the moment, clutching her arm and wailing about assault, as if she hadn't just yanked a teenager's hair. I took a breath, forcing my protective instincts down. "Greg," I said, keeping my voice even, "do your security cameras cover this area?" He nodded, pointing to a small camera mounted above the counter. "Good." Witnesses were already stepping forward, their faces a mix of disgust and disbelief. A middle-aged woman in a cardigan spoke up first. "That lady grabbed the girl's hair over nothing. The kid just defended herself." A college-aged guy with earbuds nodded. "Yeah, it was a clean move. She didn't even hit her. Just put her on the ground." Their accounts were gold, and I made mental notes to get their contact info. Olivia bent to grab her sports bag, the Judo GI inside catching a few eyes now. Someone handed Brenda her handbag, which she snatched without a thank you. Her phone lay nearby, screen cracked from its tumble. She was still on the floor, now sitting up, her theatrics in full swing. "I'm injured," she cried, cradling her wrist like it was broken. "That little monster attacked me." It wasn't long before 2 police officers arrived, their boots squeaking on the cafe's polished floor. Brenda lit up like she'd been handed a script. "Officers!" she shrieked, scrambling to her feet with surprising agility for someone injured. "This out-of-control teenager assaulted me. I was just standing here, and she threw me to the ground." Her voice dripped with indignation. Her latte-stained sleeve waved like a flag. I stepped forward, keeping Olivia close. "That's not what happened," I said, my tone firm but calm. "This woman grabbed my daughter's ponytail and yanked her head back after a minor coffee spill. My daughter reacted defensively, using her judo training." Olivia nodded, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I'm sorry it escalated, but she grabbed me. I felt threatened and acted to stop her." Her composure was unreal for 17. I could see one officer, a stocky guy with a notepad, raise an eyebrow impressed. The witnesses didn't hesitate. The cardigan woman repeated her account, emphasizing Brenda's aggression. The earbud guy chimed in, describing the hair pull in detail. Another patron, an older man with a cane, added, "The lady was out of line. The girl didn't start it." Greg, the manager, confirmed he'd pulled the security footage. Brenda's face twitched, her confidence cracking as she realized the room wasn't on her side. The officers followed Greg to a back office to view the footage on a small monitor. Brenda trailed them, insisting it would prove her case. Olivia and I stayed put, surrounded by supportive murmurs from the crowd. A barista slipped Olivia a fresh latte, whispering, "That was badass." Olivia smiled faintly, clutching the cup. When the officers returned, their expressions told the story. The stocky one spoke first. "The footage is clear, ma'am," he said to Brenda. "You initiated physical contact by grabbing the young lady's hair. Her response was defensive and proportionate." Brenda's jaw dropped. "That's not true," she sputtered. "The footage is misleading. She used excessive force." Her voice climbed, but the officers weren't buying it. The second officer, a younger woman, glanced at Olivia's sports bag, where the judo GI was now slightly more visible. "Miss," she asked Olivia, "do you have martial arts training?" Olivia nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I've been practicing judo for 8 years. I'm a state champion." The officer's lips twitched, almost a smile. Brenda's story was unraveling faster than her composure. She tried doubling down, claiming Olivia provoked her by bumping into her. But the witnesses shut that down. The cardigan woman snorted. "Provoked?" She apologized. "You're the one who went berserk." The officers took statements from everyone, their notepads filling up. They jotted down Brenda's information, her protests growing weaker. "This is outrageous," she muttered, clutching her cracked phone. My husband will hear about this. I exchanged glances with Olivia, who was holding her sports bag now, its weight a quiet reminder of her skill. The officers assured us the footage would be preserved, and Greg promised to send a copy to the police. The crowd began to disperse, some patrons giving Olivia approving nods. One guy muttered, "That lady picked the wrong kid to mess with." As the officers wrapped up, they told Brenda she was free to go but warned her she might hear from the district attorney's office. Her face went pale, the reality sinking in. She gathered her things, her scuffed handbag, her broken phone, her dignity in tatters, and stormed out, avoiding eye contact. The cafe erupted in low chuckles, the tension breaking. I pulled Olivia aside, checking her scalp where Brenda had yanked. "You okay, kiddo?" asked. She nodded, a small smile breaking through. "Yeah, Dad. I didn't mean to throw her that hard. It just happened." I hugged her, pride swelling. "You did what you had to. I'm proud of you." We thanked the witnesses, swapping numbers with the cardigan woman and the earbud guy. Greg apologized profusely, offering free coffee for life. I declined but said we'd be back. The daily grind had just earned our loyalty. As we left, Olivia's sports bag slung over her shoulder. I couldn't help but think, Brenda had no idea who she'd tangled with, and soon, she'd find out the law wasn't on her side either. Brenda called the cops expecting to see my daughter in handcuffs. Instead, she found herself explaining why she assaulted a teenager. To officers who now had clear video evidence, the cafe was quieter now, the crowd thinning as patrons returned to their pastries and conversations. Brenda's dramatic exit left a lingering buzz, her spilled coffee still a sticky mess on the floor. Olivia sat at our table, her sports bag at her feet, sipping the fresh latte the barista had slipped her. I stood nearby, thanking the witnesses again, their contact info safely in my phone. The officers lingered, wrapping up their notes, the incident report taking shape on a clipboard one of them held. The stocky officer approached us, his notepad tucked away. "Folks," he said, his tone professional but warm. "Based on the footage and witness statements, it's clear the other party initiated the assault. Your daughter's response was defensive and reasonable." He glanced at Olivia, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "You handled yourself well, young lady." Olivia nodded, her expression calm but relieved. "Thank you, sir," she said softly, her fingers brushing the strap of her sports bag. Then came the bombshell. The female officer, who'd been reviewing the incident report, turned to Brenda's absence. She'd stormed out minutes ago and said, "The woman could face charges for assault and battery, especially since it involved a minor. We've got her information, and the DA's office will likely follow up." My eyebrows shot up. Brenda had walked into this thinking she'd play the victim. But the security footage, witnesses, and Olivia's measured response had flipped the script. Brenda wasn't there to hear it, but I could imagine her reaction. Before she left, she'd been muttering about her very important husband and threatening to call her lawyer. Now her bluster was just digging her deeper. The stocky officer added, "If you choose to press charges, the evidence is solid. The footage shows her grabbing your daughter's hair unprovoked." I looked at Olivia, who was listening intently, her latte forgotten. "We'll talk it over," I said. "We want to cooperate fully." The officers nodded, handing me a card with a case number. "Give us a call if you decide to move forward." The female officer said, "We'll send the footage and statements to the DA." They gathered their things, the incident report now a tidy stack of notes, and headed out, leaving the cafe to its usual hum. Greg, the manager, was mopping up Brenda's coffee spill, shaking his head. "Never seen anything like that," he muttered, offering us a sheepish smile. Olivia and I sat back down, the weight of the moment settling in. Her sports bag, with that telltale Judo GI peeking out, seemed to anchor her. "You sure you're okay?" I asked again, my dad instincts still on high alert. She smiled a little stronger this time. "Yeah, Dad. It's just weird. I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted her to stop." I squeezed her shoulder. "You did exactly what you were trained to do." She brought this on herself. We talked about next steps. Pressing charges felt right, We agreed to sleep on it. The witnesses had our backs, the footage was undeniable, and the officers had made it clear Brenda was in trouble. For now, we'd let the legal process do its work. I jotted down the case number and witness contacts in my phone, the notes a small assurance we were covered. As we packed up, a few patrons gave Olivia nods of approval. The cardigan woman, before leaving, said, "You're a tough kid. Good for you." The earbud guy flashed a thumbs up. Olivia blushed but stood taller, her sports bag slung over her shoulder. We stepped outside, the morning air crisp, the chaos of the daily grind behind us. Over the next few days, the incident lingered like a low hum. I called the police to confirm we'd cooperate with any investigation, and they informed me the DA was reviewing the case. Brenda, I learned through the grapevine, was still trying to spin her story. A friend of a witness mentioned she'd been overheard at a local gym, claiming she'd been attacked by a violent teen. But the security footage was her kryptonite. When the DA got a copy, her narrative crumbled. The cafe became a minor local legend. Greg told me later that patrons kept asking about the Judo kid. He'd even started calling Olivia's usual latte order the Judo special. Half joking, the security footage, he assured me, was safely stored, and he'd sent a copy to the police as promised. I thanked him, knowing that grainy video was Brenda's undoing. Olivia, meanwhile, was back to her routine, training at the dojo with renewed focus. Her coach, a grizzled ex-competitor, heard the story and laughed so hard he nearly dropped his clipboard. "That's my girl," he said, clapping her on the back. Her sports bag, now a quiet symbol of her skill, carried her GI and a couple of state championship medals, which she'd shown me after the incident, their weight a reminder of her discipline. Brenda's reckoning was coming. The DA's office contacted us a week later, confirming they were moving forward with assault charges. They'd spoken to Brenda, who tried to argue excessive force again. But the footage and witness statements shut her down. Her lawyer, probably sensing a losing battle, was pushing for a plea deal. I pictured Brenda in her designer athleisure, fuming as reality sank in. She'd assaulted a minor, and the law wasn't buying her victim act. The community reaction was subtle but satisfying. At the grocery store, a stranger who'd heard the story gave Olivia a knowing smile. "Heard you took down a bully," she said. Olivia, ever humble, just shrugged, but I could see her confidence growing. Her judo training now a badge of honor beyond the dojo. As we waited for the legal process to unfold, I couldn't shake the irony. Brenda had stormed into that cafe, thinking she could bully a teenager into submission. Instead, she'd met a state champ who turned her aggression into a lesson in physics. And soon, the law would deliver its own throw. The incident report, the footage, the witnesses, all of it was a perfect setup for justice. Brenda's walk of shame out of the daily grind was just the beginning. Brenda wanted to teach a teenager a lesson in respect. Instead, she got a masterclass in legal consequences and became a local legend for all the wrong reasons. Weeks passed, and the incident at the daily grind took on a life of its own. Brenda faced the legal system in a local courthouse. Her designer athleisure swapped for a more subdued blazer that couldn't hide her scowl. The security footage, witness statements, and Olivia's clear self-defense left her little room to maneuver. Her lawyer, a weary-looking man in a cheap suit, likely saw the writing on the wall and pushed for a plea deal. Brenda, I heard through a courthouse contact, grudgingly accepted a lesser charge to avoid a trial. The court document spelled it out. Probation, a hefty fine, mandatory anger management classes, and in order to cover the cost of Olivia's ruined latte, plus a small settlement for distress, a restraining order was issued, barring her from contacting Olivia or me. The outcome felt right. Olivia and I had decided to let the DA handle the case, trusting the evidence to speak for itself. When the verdict came, Olivia read the court documents with a quiet nod, her sports bag at her side. Its judo GI a reminder of the day she'd turned Brenda's aggression against her. She got what she deserved, Olivia said, folding the papers. I agreed, proud of her restraint both in the cafe and now. The story didn't end in the courthouse. Word of the judo kid spread like wildfire. A local news outlet picked it up, handling it tastefully to protect Olivia's privacy but celebrating her self-defense skills. The article, titled Teens Judo Skills Foil Café Bully, focused on empowerment and anti-bullying, quoting an anonymous witness who called Olivia's throw poetry in motion. A framed copy of the article now hung in her dojo, where her teammates teased her good-naturedly. The dojo saw a surge in sign-ups, parents citing Olivia's story as inspiration for their kids. Her coach beamed, saying, "She's our best recruiter." Brenda, meanwhile, became a punchline. Rumors swirled that the security footage had leaked online, likely through a cheeky cafe employee or a witness with a grudge. Clips of her hair pull and subsequent floor flop circulated on social media, captioned with gems like, "Karen vs. Judo. Bad day to be entitled." Brenda's attempts to play the victim fell flat. The footage was too damning. At a local diner, I overheard someone chuckle, "That latte lady's probably hiding in her yoga pants now." Her reputation was shredded. Her very important husband nowhere to be seen. Olivia's life, on the other hand, soared. The incident boosted her confidence. Her judo practice sharper than ever. She started mentoring younger kids at the dojo. Her state championship medals now displayed proudly in her sports bag. At school, classmates who'd seen the news story gave her high fives, though she brushed off the attention with a shy smile. I caught her practicing throws in the backyard, her focus unbreakable. The cafe chaos a distant memory. Brenda's new normal was less glamorous. She was spotted less often, her athleisure replaced by nondescript outfits, as if trying to blend into the background. Her anger management classes, mandated by the court, were held at a community center where locals whispered about the cafe Karen attending. Her fine and legal fees must have stung, and the restraining order kept her far from Olivia. I imagined her scrolling through those viral clips, fuming at her own infamy. The community embraced Olivia's story as a lesson in accountability. At the daily grind, Craig leaned into the legend, jokingly naming a strong espresso blend the Brenda Blocker. Patrons ordered it with a wink. The spilled coffee incident now cafe lore. Olivia and I returned often, greeted with smiles and the occasional free pastry. My phone still held the witness contacts and case number, but they felt like relics now. Proof we'd stood our ground. The legal fallout wasn't the only consequence. Olivia's story sparked conversations about respect and self-defense. A local school invited her to speak at an anti-bullying assembly, with me by her side for support. She kept it simple, explaining how judo taught her to stay calm and protect herself without malice. The kids hung on her every word, some asking about classes afterward. Her sports bag, slung over her shoulder during the talk, was a quiet symbol of her strength. Brenda's notoriety had a ripple effect too. People who dealt with her brand of entitlement, at the gym, the grocery store, or other local spots, shared their own stories, emboldened by her downfall. It was as if the cafe incident had popped a bubble, exposing her behavior for what it was. I heard she'd considered moving, her social circle shrinking as her victim narrative collapsed. At home, Olivia and I reflected on it all. Over coffee one morning, I said, "You know, Brenda thought she'd teach you a lesson. Instead, you taught her one, in judo and in life." Olivia grinned, her state medals tucked in her bag nearby. "Guess she didn't know I had a black belt in both," she quipped. We laughed, the weight of the ordeal lifting. The story became a local touchstone, a reminder that actions have consequences. Brenda's courthouse loss was more than a fine or probation. It was a public humbling. Olivia, meanwhile, emerged stronger. Her judo skills now a badge of honor and a beacon for others. The court documents, the news article, the viral clips, all were pieces of a saga that started with a spilled latte and ended with a lesson no one in town would forget. Brenda's days as a public Karen were over, but Olivia's legacy as the judo kid was just beginning. Brenda came to a judo tournament to learn humility. Olivia was there to win. Only one of them was successful. The regional judo tournament was a whirlwind of energy. The gym packed with competitors, coaches, and cheering families. Olivia was in her element, her judo gi pristine, her focus razor sharp as she warmed up on the mats. Her team's table displayed her state championship medals, their gleam catching the light. I sat in the stands, pride swelling as I watched her execute practice throws with effortless precision. Her sports bag, now a familiar symbol of her strength, rested nearby, stuffed with her gear and those hard-earned accolades. As Olivia prepared for her division, I scanned the crowd and froze. There, in the bleachers, sat Brenda. She looked out of place, her usual athleisure replaced by a plain sweater, her posture stiff. A man in a polo shirt sat beside her, maybe a probation officer or counselor, given her court-ordered obligations. She kept her head low, but her eyes flicked toward the mats, where Olivia was stretching. No interaction, no confrontation, just a silent irony hanging in the air. Brenda, the woman who tried to bully a teenager, was now a spectator at the very sport that had humbled her. Olivia didn't notice her. She was too focused, her movements fluid as she stepped onto the mat for her first match. With a swift Tayotoshi, she sent her opponent to the ground, earning a clean point. The crowd roared, and I clapped, my heart full. By the end of the day, Olivia won her division. Her final throw a textbook ogashi that echoed the Café incident in its grace and power. As she accepted her medal, her teammates mobbed her, their cheers drowning out the gym's noise. Brenda, I noticed, slipped out quietly, her lesson in humility complete. The Café incident had become a local cautionary tale, its impact rippling beyond the courthouse. At the Daily Grind, Craig had made the Brenda Blocker a permanent menu item. A strong espresso blend that patrons ordered with knowing smirks. The cafe's walls now sported a small photo of Olivia, taken at the tournament, her medal gleaming. It was captioned simply, "Don't mess with our judo kid." Customers loved it, and Olivia blushed every time we stopped by. Her usual latte now served with a side of quiet respect. Olivia's story sparked change in the community. Schools invited her to speak about self-defense and standing up to bullies. Her talks grounded in judo's principles of control and respect. At one event, she stood before a gym full of middle schoolers, her sports bag at her side, and explained how staying calm had saved her in the cafe. "It's not about fighting," she said. "It's about protecting yourself and others." The kids ate it up, some signing up for judo classes afterward. I stood at the back, marveling at her poise, her medals tucked in her bag as a silent testament to her skill. The incident also shifted how people talked about entitlement. Locals swapped stories of Karens they'd encountered, emboldened by Brenda's downfall to call out bad behavior. The viral cafe footage, still floating online, became a meme with captions like, "When you pick a fight with a black belt." Brenda faded from the public eye. Her court-mandated class is over, her reputation too battered to recover. Rumor had it she'd moved to a neighboring town, her days of public outbursts done. Those who recognized Olivia in passing gave her thumbs-ups or knowing smiles. The unspoken understanding clear. She'd won more than a tournament. Back at the Daily Grind, Olivia and I sat one morning, the cafe's familiar hum around us. I sipped my coffee, the newspaper folded on the table, while Olivia scrolled on her phone, her sports bag under her chair. "You know," I said, leaning back, "Brenda thought she'd teach you respect, but you gave her a lesson she'll never forget. Free of charge, except for the legal fees and a scuffed handbag." Olivia laughed, her eyes bright. "Best throw I ever landed," she said, tapping her bag where her newest medal rested. "And I didn't even need a mat." The community had changed for the better. The cafe incident became a touchstone, a story told with chuckles over coffee or during dojo warm-ups. Olivia's confidence soared, her judo now a platform for inspiring others. She was eyeing national competitions, her training more intense, her goals bigger. Brenda, wherever she was, had learned the hard way that some people can't be pushed around, especially when they know how to use your own momentum against you. If you loved seeing this cafe Karen get a taste of her own medicine, judo style, smash that like button. Share this story of instant karma. Subscribe for more tales of entitled folks meeting their match. And be sure to ring that bell so you don't miss the next takedown. What's the most satisfying Karen learns a lesson moment you've ever witnessed? Drop it in the comments below.